Today's video is part 3 of a multi-part install series for this Dark MatterX DM-1 shifter. In today's video, we're going to be installing some redesigned 3D printed front brackets on the shifter base to hopefully get the alignment and all the configuration figured out and get this shifter installed in my 1998 RS once and for all. Thanks a lot for checking out the video, guys. I really appreciate it. My name's Luke, and you guys are watching the SubaruONLY channel. Okay guys, before we install this revised 3D printed bracket, I'm going to walk you guys through the version history and the design revisions we made to this bracket throughout this installation process. This first version right here is the first bracket that the Dark MatterX kit came with. And this bracket just had a fixed hole right here that mounted to the Dark MatterX base, and then a fixed hole right here that was going to require that I drill a hole through my trans tunnel. But the problem with this bracket is that this bracket didn't actually come up all the way and touch the bottom of the trans tunnel, so it wasn't actually going to support the front of that shifter base. And that led to revision 2. In revision 2, we actually extended this bottom piece right here and put a slotted screw hole in there. That way, this little bracket could slide up and down on the body of that Dark MatterX shifter base. And by adding this material in that slotted screw area, you could actually slide that bracket up and actually make contact with the bottom of the trans tunnel. But with this second revision, I was still going to have to drill a hole through my pan to align it with this little hole and add a bolt. And that leads to the third version of this design. In the third version, we actually extend the front out a little bit and actually put a slotted, smaller diameter screw hole. That way we could utilize the factory screw locations in the Subaru GC pan to mount this bracket and support the front of that shifter base. This way we can avoid drilling through the pan, and we just have to swap out that OEM screw for a longer screw with a nut and a washer. And it looks like this third version is going to work perfect, so this is the one I'm installing on the shifter base today and will be installing in the vehicle. Okay guys, as you can see, I got these new brackets installed, and I'll also mention that I actually flipped this little shifter joint as well, because I think this sucker might have been installed upside down. Just a little heads up if you're watching how I installed this little piece in the previous video. And then the other part that Eric, the owner of Dark MatterX, actually redesigned was this rear bracket. This rear bracket actually has a slightly different angle on the mounting face to this base. That way, this shifter base should actually line up closer to the bottom of that trans tunnel. Alright guys, and with these front redesigned 3D printed brackets and that redesigned rear CNC bracket, this shifter assembly should be good to go, and we should be ready to install it in my 1988 RS. Okay, here's how I figured out how to get this shifter in with these longer, bigger front brackets installed. Basically keep them real loose. As you can see right here, everything's real loose. Rear bracket's loose too. And then start with the left side. Weave the left side in first, and then slide everything down the right side. Left side in the front, then get the rear piece, then get the rear bottom, and then get this one underneath, and boom, just like that. All 4 mounting locations are underneath that trans tunnel hole. This is one of the OEM shifter surrounds, and I've actually modified this one right here in the upper left-hand corner to make room for this STI shift arm. And I'm going to use the hole locations to mount the front of the shifter base. And how I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to replace this little screw right here with this longer screw. That way I can go through this metal plate, through the same OEM hole that the previous screw went through, and through that 3D printed bracket. So this longer screw should be good enough to go through all 3 of those pieces and mount the front of the shifter base. Now I didn't show it in that time lapse, but I actually installed this rubber OEM insulating boot as well. This little rubber insulating boot actually goes over your stock OEM shifter right here, and it actually goes over this shift arm. So I modified this insulating boot by putting a little slit right here in the front. That way I can kind of slide it over this little nub here in the Dark MatterX shifter, and I can reinstall it underneath that plate. That way we can get some of the benefits of this OEM insulating boot to block the sound and some of that debris from the trans tunnel. The next thing I'm going to do is reinstall my center console and then see if that OEM accordion shift boot is actually going to fit over this Dark MatterX shifter, because I really want to use that accordion shift boot that came factory original on these GCs. Alright guys, you're looking at the Dark MatterX DM-1 shifter installed with a stock OEM console and that stock OEM accordion shift boot. I gotta say, I think it looks pretty damn good.
That's one of the things that Eric, the owner of Dark MatterX, had actually warned me about in the beginning, is that he didn't think I could use this accordion boot. But I'll tell you guys right now, the accordion boot works absolutely perfect with this Dark MatterX DM-1 shifter. There's no reason to swap out this accordion boot. If you like the boot, keep the boot. Now moving over here to the driver's side, one of the differences I'll definitely say is that this shifter actually sits up a little bit higher than my stock OEM short throw shifter that had a cartboy shifter in it. So that's definitely one of the big differences here, is that this shifter actually sits up taller. Even though it still has a pretty short throw, it's definitely at a taller position for that shift knob, and I actually prefer that. So I gotta say guys, this Dark MatterX DM-1 shifter is actually a better fit for the stock OEM center console and OEM accordion boot than that cartboy short shifter. But to be totally honest guys, there is one negative thing that I'm observing with this installation. This Dark MatterX DM-1 shifter is actually tilted to the side still. It's not perfectly vertical in that perfectly vertical aligned position in neutral. There's actually a little bit of a tilt to it off to the right here. But other than that vertical alignment issue, I gotta say this Dark MatterX DM-1 shifter seems to be a pretty damn good fit, especially now that we have those new front brackets that allowed us to use the OEM bolt holes and not have to drill new bolt holes in my pan. That was really kind of a big issue for me, and I gotta say I'm really happy we were able to figure out how to redesign those front brackets so we could use the stock bolt locations and just use longer bolts to make this whole installation work.
Alright guys, and that concludes this 3-part video series for installing this Dark MatterX DM-1 shifter in a 1993 through 2001 Subaru Impreza GC chassis. I gotta say I definitely ran into a couple hiccups over this installation process, but I gotta give a big shout out to Dark MatterX and Eric, the owner of Dark MatterX, for redesigning all these parts and getting them out to me pretty quickly to get this installation done once and for all. Overall, I gotta say I'm really glad that this shifter was able to use the stock accordion shift boots in my stock center console components, because that was gonna be one of the biggest issues I was gonna have. So if you guys are thinking about getting one of these shifters, just know that you can definitely retain your stock center console and that stock OEM accordion shift boot. And with those redesigned front brackets for that shifter base, you can also use the stock hole locations to install the shifter, and you don't have to drill any additional holes in your pan. Now, though this concludes this 3-part video install series for this Dark MatterX DM-1 shifter, you guys can expect another video in the near future where I'm going to take the shifter out on the road and give it a test drive and see how it actually feels under driving conditions. And of course, if you guys want to look up more information on these Dark MatterX shifters, check out the darkmatterx.com website. And as always, if you guys do any maintenance to your Subarus, check out my SubaruONLY.com website, where I actually have all the factory service manuals saved in archives for all the model years, and I have a bunch of technical service bulletins that Subaru has released over the years. And if you guys have any comments or questions, please go ahead and leave the comments in the comment section, or you can email me at SubaruONLYshop@gmail.com. Thanks a lot for checking out the video, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this 3-part video series for this DM-1 Dark MatterX shifter. My name's Luke. You guys are watching the Subaru Only channel. And until next time, guys, later!